Hello there and welcome back to yet another series on digital assessment tools. For all those who are new here, I am Annapurna Madhuri, a teacher trainer and counselor from Sandur, Karnataka. In this episode, we will learn how to create a quiz using Google Forms and share it with your students. The quiz can be self-graded such that the students can get to know their grades and the feedback immediately after they submit the quiz. We will also see how to import these marks into a Google Classroom at the click of a single button, and also see how to export the grades and the marks obtained by the students into an Excel file and keep it for your record purposes. So to begin with, you need to create a Google form. There are two ways to create a Google form. First way is to type Google Forms on your Google search engine. So when you type Google Form on your Google search engine, the search engine will take you to a page which will open the Google Forms. So you can click on this and then you can get an access to the Google Forms. It will ask you to go to the Google Forms, go to the Google Forms, and you can create a Google form. You get many templates as well and also a blank form. So we start with creating a blank form. The second way to create a Google form is from your Google search engine page, click on these 9 dots here, which will take you to the Google Drive. On clicking on the Google Drive, you go to the Google Drive page from your email, and from here you can just click on this plus button here. So on clicking on this plus button, you can you can see file uploads, you can see folder uploads, you can also have a view of the Google documents, the Google Sheets, Google Slides and more. So going on to this more will take you to the Google Forms. With the putting your cursor on the small arrow here will take you to either a blank form or a form from a template. So we will see how to create a Google form using a blank form and convert it into a quiz. So on clicking on the blank form, we get a page, right? So let us see what is there on this page first before we go on to make a quiz. So first you will see the title of the form. By default it is untitled, so you have to give a name for this. You have the questions which will be typed down here. You will get the responses when you finish your quiz and assign it to your students. You can get to, and they take the quiz, you can get the responses from here. Then here you have the add-on, which is a timer, which I have added on to this. You get a theme where you can customize the theme of the Google form or the Google quiz you're creating. You have a preview button where you can get to see how the students can view the quiz. Then you have the settings. So first, and then you have the send button from where you send the quiz to your students in various ways. Either you can email it to your students, or you can share the link with your students, or you can also embed it with various other learning management systems. So first let us see the settings. On clicking on the settings button, we get 3 types of settings: the general settings, the presentation settings and the quizzes. So in the general settings, we get to collect the email addresses. So by clicking on this, all your forms, all those people who are taking this test have to enter their email addresses, without which they cannot take the test, right? And then we can also enable this response receipts if the respondent requests it. That means if your student has completed the test and he wants to make sure that the test has reached you or has been submitted, they can get a response if they request for it. Okay, then you have require sign in, and how many times can one sign in using the same email ID. We can either limit it to one response, or we can just leave it for unlimited. So in this form, I will click on limit it to one response. So the respondents will be required to sign into Google, take this quiz only once using that particular email ID. You can also enable the respondents or the participants or your students in this case to edit the quiz after they submit it if you want to, and they can also see the summary and the charts and the text responses, summary charts and the text responses. So generally we do not do this. So even otherwise, if you want to allow your students to edit the quiz even after they submit it, you can allow them to do it. So once these settings are done, we go to the presentation settings. So in the presentation, you can show the progress bar to the students and also shuffle the order of the questions. So while the progress bar is seen, the children will know how much of the quiz they have completed and how much is yet remaining to complete. The shuffling the question order will help you to enable the children to get a different order every time they take the quiz, or even all the children will get a different order of the questions. Then you have the quiz settings, which is very important. We need to convert this Google form into a quiz. So we need to toggle on this button saying make this a quiz. That means assign value points to the questions and allow auto grading. So here what happens is you have enabled the auto grading of the quiz. Now auto grading can be done for the objective type of questions, but when it is a subjective question, a descriptive essay type question, you might also need to check manually later on. So depending upon the type of the quiz you are planning for your students, you can release the grade immediately after the submission, or you can also enable to release the grade after the manual review is done. You can also allow the respondents to see the questions they have missed. You can also enable them to see the correct answers and also the point values which they have got. So after all these settings are done, we have to save it. So that brings us to the end of this particular episode on digital assessment tools, making a quiz using Google Forms. We have seen what all settings have to be done and how to properly organize the whole thing and create a groundwork or a basic structure of the Google quiz. In the next episode, we will see how to add the questions, what different kinds of questions can be added, and once we add the questions, how to share this with our students. So stay tuned till then and happy learning.